right now on 5 on Your Side at 10.
Abortion isn't just a reproductive freedom issue, it's a religious freedom issue.
Across Missouri, people for and against abortion. What they had to say on the issue as hundreds gathered at the Arch. An update on Kaylee Gain. Her mother shares news weeks after the teen is hospitalized following a violent fight.
Relatively dry conditions, why these numbers in the 20s and 30s are important for weather tomorrow and when it changes, and brings us our next chance for rain.
But first, Missouri's Democratic primary.
It's just such a part of America's DNA that, we have an opportunity to show up and vote and be heard.
A wrap of the day and when we're hearing the results. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kelly Jackson, and for Brent Solomon, there were more than a dozen polling places around St. Louis and surrounding counties. Voters had just 4 hours to cast their ballots. President Biden, Marianne Williamson, and Dean Phillips were just some of the names on the ballots. It was the first party-run presidential contest in the state since a law was passed in August of 2022, leaving it up to each party to run its own presidential primary or caucus. And that means it can take some time to hear the results.
We've built in a few days just because we're using an election vendor who's well known in running state and private elections around the country. So they're the ones that will actually be tabulating these. We expect we may have it sooner, but we built in some extra days just in case.
You can expect election results in the upcoming days. For the latest updates on the primary, just visit KSDK.com. Also at the polls today, Missouri Democrats collected signatures for the Right to Reproductive Freedom ballot initiative. It's aimed at ending the ban on abortions in the state. 5 on Your Side's Laura Barcheski checked in with the organizers as they raced against the clock to collect signatures. Laura?
Kelly, they have until May 5th to get more than 170,000 signatures, and so far the organizers believe they're on track to get it done. As volunteers from Missourians for Constitutional Freedom collected signatures at Democratic primary polls to get reproductive freedoms on the ballot, pro-life organizations marched to the Arch, saying the fight is not over just because Roe v. Wade was overturned.
There's no inherent constitutional right to have an abortion, and so millions of children are still continuing to be aborted. And we just want to raise the level of awareness.
The ballot initiative on the table right now says the government shall not deny or infringe upon a person's fundamental right to reproductive freedom. Rachel Lazar with Americans United says abortion isn't just a reproductive freedom issue, it's also a religious freedom issue.
What I'm proud about isn't just the courage of our plaintiffs in our lawsuit and the challenges to Missouri's abortion bans, but the way that that's helped lead to this ballot initiative, hopefully, that will, be on the ballot in November so that the voters can overturn these abortion bans, advancing both reproductive and religious freedom.
Executive Director of Coalition Life, Brian Westbrook, says those who are pro-life need to continue to stand together as he believes the courts won't protect life at the end of the day.
We all have to work together, and the one thing we know is that the pro-life movement is 100% united today to continue to protect life, specifically in Missouri, to fight back with some of these ballot initiatives.
Missourians for Constitutional Freedom says they aren't releasing signature numbers right now, but are on track, saying, quote, the more Missourians hear about our campaign, the more they're energized to fight back against Missouri's cruel abortion ban and put families, not politicians, back in charge of personal medical decisions. Our grassroots movement continues to build momentum, and we're going to keep doing the work to grow support across the state. You can find out more about the petition and the language that could be on the ballot at KSDK.com.
Hundreds of people from organizations across the state gathered in front of Union Station for the anti-abortion march. This was the 7th annual March on the Arch event held downtown. While Roe v. Wade was overturned in 2022, many there say their campaign is far from over.
The Supreme Court did not, in fact, eradicate abortion. What it did is it sent it back to the people and the people's representatives. We need to make sure that the pro-life movement continues year after year. In a post-Roe versus Wade world, we need to know that the work continues.
Both groups say they will continue to make their voices heard on the issue. Let's talk about our weather. Cool and cloudy downtown as City FC takes on DC United tonight. Meteorologist Gary Frank has a first look at our Weather first forecast.
Yeah, it was chilly as they were all kind of hanging out for the game as it just ended. But, clouds increase now, and you can see where there's rain settling in. You think, well, that's just in time now that rain can settle in after the game's over. But I don't think that any of this is reaching the surface. As we look at a different product here, you can see that as this rain gets closer, a lot of it's falling apart. But clouds are still increasing, and it's a lot to do with that dry air that's in place as we continue to see an east breeze. In fact, there's no rain anywhere on any of these cameras, as you would expect based on what I just showed you. But downtown on Market Street, it's still 45 degrees. We've dropped about 5 degrees since I last saw you in the evening. We've got now that east-southeast breeze at around 10 miles an hour. So it does feel a little chilly at 41 degrees. That's what we're going to see tonight, as we won't drop a ton from where we are right now, but those clouds continue to stay with us as that east-southeast breeze remains in place. It's also going to keep us dry, but it'll help us warm up a little bit for now. Breezy conditions pick up tomorrow, and that's what I'll highlight as we warm up a little bit more before an actual better rain chance. Who's most likely to get the highest rain totals just ahead.
A man is dead after a barn collapse in Monroe County this morning. It happened at around 9:30 off Country Club Lane in Waterloo. Crews were working on tearing down the building, and that's when part of it collapsed on two of the workers. Police were called to the scene to free the trapped men. One man was taken to the hospital and is expected to be okay, but a 58-year-old Wildwood man died at the scene. The man's name has not been released until his family is notified. New information tonight on the teen who was critically injured early this month in a fight. 16-year-old Kaylee Gain was involved in a fight that happened near Hazelwood East High. In a recent post to her GoFundMe page, Gain's mother wrote that her daughter is out of the ICU and breathing on her own. Kaylee has been unconscious since the March 8th fight. A 15-year-old is in custody on assault charges. Today, a North County hospital held an event promoting health and wellness in the African American community. It's called the Black Family Wellness Expo. Christian Hospital on Dunn Road held free health screenings, and people had the opportunity to talk with medical experts. Doctors say African Americans are at a higher risk for developing heart disease, stroke, and other chronic illnesses.
We know that there are so many disparities, particularly in the Black community, and Black wellness, family wellness is really important for sustaining our communities, for sustaining our well-being. So we want to make sure we're raising awareness and providing information and resources for people.
The expo is also encouraging mental health wellness, especially among children, by providing books parents can read to them. Organizers hope this can be an annual event. Coming up, a community coming together. No more violence! No more violence! How Jennings hopes to put a stop to it after a recent uptick among teens.
Weather not so much going to impact our plans tomorrow, but it will be breezy. But it's Monday and Tuesday that our next impactful system arrives. How much rain we can expect and when we'll see it on the way.
And are fast food prices rising faster than inflation? Our National Verify team looks into whether this drive-through dilemma has any bite to it. After weeks of teen violence in our area, one community stepped up today by stepping out into the streets. Dozens of Jennings residents, including young people, parents, and community leaders, gathered to show their commitment to ending violence. Led by groups like the Jennings Youth Commission, people shared their experiences with violence in the community. They want people to know that the community cares about their issues.
Violence and anger does not have to take precedence over us coming together, talking things out, being patient with one another, being tolerant with one another. We have to show our young people a better way.
Actions speak louder than words. So how are you saying, "Oh yeah, I'm all for Jennings, I'm all for the community," and you're doing nothing to actually come and see us and see how we're doing or what we're doing or how you can make something better.
For ways you can get involved, contact the Jennings Youth Commission. And in the Metro East today, another effort to curb violence. A shoe drive was held at the Clyde G. Jordan Senior Citizen Center in East St. Louis. Members of the 618 movement organized the event. It's a community-based organization that provides support to families and promotes conflict resolution programs for parents and kids. During the shoe drive, balloons were released to remember loved ones lost to violence. Early this morning, the Senate passed a sweeping $1.2 trillion spending bill, stopping a shutdown. The process divided Congress for months, and back and forth negotiations plagued Capitol Hill for months. While the deadline to prevent a shutdown was midnight, senators were able to vote in favor of the bill 74-24. President Biden signed the bill into law later today. But not everyone was happy with the decision, as some Republican lawmakers are calling for House Speaker Mike Johnson to step down.
I filed the motion to vacate this morning as this budget bill was passing. Complete departure of what the Republican majority had told the American people we would do with the majority. We were also not given the opportunity to bring amendments on this big funding bill.
The legislation will fund the Departments of State, Defense, Labor, Health and Human Services, and Homeland Security. The total spending level for the fiscal year is about $1.66 trillion.
Well, right now it's still cloudy, but rain settling in. If any of that will reach us tonight, and when we'll see a better chance of widespread rain.
It's no secret that the price of just about everything is going up, from gas to groceries. But will the price of your fast food orders break the bank more than other items? Brandon Lewis from our National Verify team looks into it.
Several X posts, including this one with more than 25 million views, are calling out the price of fast food. Some claim prices are rising faster than inflation, but is that really true? Let's verify. Our sources are the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the U.S. Census Bureau, The Economist's Big Mac Index, and archived menu prices from Taco Bell. The Consumer Price Index tracks the average cost of many common items to calculate inflation. Between January 2009 and February 2024, inflation caused the average price of goods to rise nearly 47%. But when we looked specifically at the category that includes fast food, prices rose nearly 70%. How does that compare with some popular items? According to The Economist's Big Mac Index, 15 years ago, the average Big Mac cost $3.43, and today it's $5.73, an increase of 66%. There's less historical data on the average price of a soft taco at Taco Bell, but we found from 2018 to today, prices rose about 50% more than inflation. So, yes, average fast food prices have risen faster than inflation over the last 15 years. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Have something you'd like us to verify? Just send an email to verify@ksdk.com. Eclipse chasers went underground today to learn more about what to expect in the skies next month. The Gateway Arch hosted an event for people interested in learning more about the upcoming eclipse. Families filed into Tucker Theater for a presentation by the Missouri Eclipse Task Force and even walked away with some free eclipse classes. Task Force leader Don Ficker stresses the importance of eye safety during the rare event.
During the partial eclipse, this is when the sun is still visible, and I'm talking about any sliver of the sun, you need to have safe protection. If you're going to look directly at the sun, you need to have the solar glasses. They need to be ISO certified, and you need to use them properly. Now, once the eclipse actually happens, in other words, if you're in totality and the moon is blocking the sun completely, you could take off the glasses. And in fact, you can't even see the sun at that point.
While St. Louis City will not experience totality, the moon will still block out about 99% of the sun. Totality will be visible just a few hours southeast in St. Genevieve, Cape Girardeau, and Poplar Bluff. For a full list of places you can watch the eclipse in Missouri and Illinois, just text the word eclipse to 314-425-5355. We'll be happy to send you a link. And I know, Gary, you'll be part of our team that will be out there covering this event.
I think overall, for like most people that are in the 97 to 99%, the easiest way to get there is on the Illinois side. Definitely Metro East. It's a 64 thing. Otherwise, you got to go way south on 55, and that's where you start to see it closer to the boot heel, things of that nature. But I mean, it's going to be. We're still looking ahead. I think there's about a 50% chance we're going to be able to see cloud cover now. It's 16 days away, so be able to fine-tune that here pretty shortly. Clouds are increasing now, and that's the thing about having it this time of the year. It's always a little more volatile. The last one was in August in 2017. Typically, it's sunnier at that point. 45, it feels like 41 with a light breeze. Normal, 59, so we're below average today. But here's where this rain is settling in. It looks like a lot of rain, right? But then, you know, it's entering this dry air. And you'll notice how it's falling apart. For the most part, this is just adding cloud cover. You'll see these numbers, just like I showed at 5 and 6, still in the mid to upper 20s. So a lot of this is maybe saturating the mid-levels of the atmosphere but not reaching the surface. I expect that to continue. Not out of the question a sprinkle happens or you see that, you wake up in the morning that there was a sprinkle on your car. I don't really think it's much of an issue other than clouds increasing. It's fighting that dry air out of the east. Now, that will continue to transition to the southeast, so we'll start to see more clouds tomorrow, but the dry air is still in place. Tomorrow is a high fire danger day, but we'll see clouds around, and from that southeast wind, we'll see our temperatures work their way back up into the low 60s, but there's going to be a pretty strong southeast breeze. 10 o'clock, 44, we're in the low 50s at noon, and then as we head into the afternoon, breaks in the clouds, not many of them. They'll be around, but we'll still head for the low 60s, pretty close to normal. But as clouds start to increase a little bit more, we'll finally see our next front that settles in by Monday, and it's going to give us a good shot at rain. However, I think the first part of the day looks to be dry. 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, a few showers. I think mid-morning into the afternoon, that's when we'll see a best opportunity for that rain. And there are going to be some spots where that rain, some of those heavier bands move over the same location repeatedly from south to north as it rides along this front, and that's where we're going to pick up the most rain. I still think there's a little bit of a hole where that maybe doesn't happen and you don't get quite as much rain because everybody's going to get it, but I still think that we get about a ½ an inch in the city, and then outside of the city, maybe 3/4 of an inch to an inch. It's hard to say when we still continue to fight that drought, but overall, it's going to be quiet the next few days as we go from 65 with mainly rain late, and then we're going to work our way back closer to 70 by the end of the week.
Dipping down a little bit, though.
Dipping down. We still got a couple more mornings of freeze. I know it's getting into April. We're talking about no more freeze and frost, but still there for now.
Got spoiled for a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we did. All right, Annie crawls on deck with sports. I have a feeling you're going to talk a little soccer.
Soccer, basketball, it's been a good night, but definitely City SC back at home. They're taking some liberties, no pun intended, against DC United, the first time they've ever played that team. So we'll see how they've been hitting the back of the net. Absolutely, Kelly, once we come back.
This 5 on Your Side Sports Report is sponsored by Telly Tire and Auto Centers, driving your way since 1942.
St. Louis City SC finally back home to City Park for its first ever match against DC United. City riding an unbeaten streak heading into tonight's game, but we're looking to gain 3 points on the season. Fans once again packing City Park to support their team tonight. St. Louis gets on the board first. That's courtesy of Indiana Vasilev on the corner kick, and it's Joshua Yara with the heads-up play, and that's going to be his first score. Yes, his first career MLS goal. That makes it 1-0 City on the ensuing kickoff. DC marches down the pitch and gets the equalizer. They're going to make it tied, but check out the effort by keeper Berkey. Gets a hand on it, and that ball is still going to find its way into the back of the net. DC's up 2-1 at the half. Now to the 70th minute of the game, City gets a penalty kick, and Klaus is going to convert. Just goes absolutely wild. His first goal of the season. Game tied up at 2. Late in the match, Nook v. Tori Sun gets a good chance, but DC's goalie with a brilliant save right there to keep the game tied. The unbeaten streak continues as the game ends in another draw, 2-2. Head coach Bradley Carnell disappointed by his team's performance tonight at home.
I'm proud that we go a goal up, not so proud that we concede straight away now in 2 games when we give away these moments from the kickoff. So it's something to reflect on, something we'll have to get better at, something we'll have to look at a little bit more intensely. But again, my focus is not really on the soccer match. There was no real soccer rhythm, no real soccer match tonight.
Well, if you had the Fighting Illini moving forward in your bracket, you were pretty happy about tonight's game. They are literally fighting to advance in March Madness and, of course, trying to fight and keep their tradition alive tonight in Omaha. Illinois has gone to 4 straight NCAA tournament appearances, their longest streak since going 8 years in a row back in 2000. And tonight, the 3-seed Illini had an aggressive start against 11-seed Duquesne, slamming down 50 points in the first half alone, and they would not stop in the second. Here are some photos coming up from the game, though, because we at the moment cannot show you highlights, but Terrence Shannon Jr. putting on a show, scoring 30 points for the Illini. They're keeping their eyes now on the Sweet 16. Illinois gets the dominant victory. It was 89-63 for a final score. They will advance to the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2005. Huge congratulations to the Illini. They'll play the winner of Iowa State against Washington State, depending on who wins in that matchup next weekend in Boston. But let's talk about the women's side of March Madness. The Iowa Hawkeyes and, of course, Caitlin Clark are moving on after defeating Holy Cross in the first round. Clark struggled a bit, actually. Some shots early not going in for her, even yelling at her dad in the stands about the refs, firing up social media today, but finished with 27 points for Clark and 10 assists in the 91-65 win, as is the Caitlin Clark effect, or maybe it's the butterfly effect. I'm not sure at this point. The #1 seeded Hawkeyes will face either 8 seed West Virginia or 9 seed Princeton in the second round on Monday. And of course, the Blues are trying to keep themselves in the playoff hunt today in Minnesota. It was a big day for Jordan Kyrou against the Wild. The forward scored a hat trick today, capping off with this breakaway goal in the third period. It was an extremely physical game, fights included, and it would end up going into overtime. Kasperi Kapanenson is going to be the one who gets it to Brandon Saad, who puts it in the goal and gets the game for the victory of the Blues. They pull away with a final score of 5-4 over the Wild. Mad Hatter Kyrou unpacked his third goal of the night when he took his time looking back on the game in the locker room.
Bucci made a great play on the wall I think Led dropped a stick there, and it was 1v2, and, he got the puck to Sauter, and then, Sauter just made a little good play to me, and I kind of saw the D coming in the corner of my eye, so I just tried to chip it around him, and, luckily enough, he didn't bump me or anything, and I kind of got a step there, so, and then I just had a great lane to the net.
A lot of back and forth on that game. It was very exciting, but of course the Blues needed a very big win, so they got it, what they needed.
Yes, they did, and that Caitlin Clark is something else.
I mean, she's just fabulous to watch, and a lot for the game. That's why the Caitlin Clark effect is very much a thing. Just fun to watch.
It is. She is fun to watch. All right, thanks so much for joining us tonight at 10. Saturday Night Live is next, and be sure to watch Travis Cummings and Mercedes McKay tomorrow at 6 a.m. Have a great night.